Joining us today.
Traders lost.
Yeah, and thanks for that clarification. That was Martin Harris, Premium Client Manager at IG. And enough is enough. That is the general sentiment when investors weigh in on criminal activity at major construction and infrastructure works across the country, widely referred to as the construction mafia. Now, conversations have turned solutions-based, and we're joined by Ntsako Ngomana, a project manager at Property Point, for more. So, Ntsako, I mean, looking through the construction mafia and particularly the situation, just to summarize from my understanding, we've got local business forums, is how they've titled themselves, that ultimately want to be included. There's billion rand construction projects taking place at their doorstep, and they are saying we want to be involved. Now, the problem is that they've kind of taken it into their own hands, and they're using violence or the threat of violence to be able to enter within these projects. Now, I'm grossly summarizing here, but I mean, looking at the title of the report that was released by the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, the title was Extortion or Transformation. So I'd like to know from your perspective, which one is it?
It can be both. Transformation and extortion, because remember, there's a difference between the construction mafia element and business forums. So the construction mafia is more affiliated with the criminal element of a group of people who guise themselves as business forums, and they disrupt the construction industry, whereas business forums are a group of businesses looking for market access, working opportunities.
So I guess in framing this conversation, we want to know a little bit more about the construction mafia that is disguising themselves as business forums. I mean, some of the data that I'm seeing is that in 2019 alone, at least 183 infrastructure and construction projects worth more than 63 billion rand was affected. So in that context, these construction mafia disguised as business forums, what's been the cost of this, directly and indirectly? How big is the impact on the construction industry?
Well, the report speaks to, like you just said, the 183 projects being affected, and this coming to about over 60 billion lost without having to continue these projects. And it goes on to mention about 47 billion in rands lost due to penalties from the delays in completing these projects because of the construction mafia.
So now then, with your earlier statement, if I'm understanding correctly, there are organized business forums that are operating with the mandate to bring in transformation, to have more local representation, more local, how should we call it, more local economic development. So why have these construction mafia forums been created? Like, why has this emerged?
Look, we'll start with what the report says. It speaks to having the construction mafia coming up in 2014 in KZN, and then it raises the impairment of our economy as one of the catalysts for this radical economic transformation. But having engaged with the communities as Property Point over the last couple of years, we've worked as community participation consultants for some of our clients, and this has forced us to sort of understand in depth what this radical economic transformation comes from, or where rather. So the other thing that we haven't spoken about, or the report does not go into depth about, is the economic exclusion in these construction projects. What we've seen is that, as an example, a lot of the construction projects that take place, contractors come with their subcontractors. They don't investigate what is available around the communities within which they are constructing. So that puts a damper on economic activity. So businesses want to be engaged, they want to be involved, so they'd rather force their way because they feel like they're not being taken seriously. So while I understand the point on the economic impairment around unemployment and the criminal element, and in no way condoning it. I must also highlight that local economic development is another step in the right direction that the construction industry needs to look into.
So then what should be done as a ways of formalizing a partnership between the construction sector and the local businesses?
This has to start from the property development space, where property developers come with clauses, and this is something we've done at Property Point for some of our clients. We engage the property developers that their construction contractors or their main contractors, when they tender for opportunities, they're already aware that they need to engage the communities around within which the construction is taking place. So there's already an element of goodwill coming in, that there's a door open for opportunities, so the businesses don't have to force their way in. Now the forums just need to provide the businesses. Instead of coming in militant and violent, the opportunities are already created.
Now, one thing that I did note from the report was the fact that the report stated that some of these business forums were affiliated with political parties or political agendas. How do you view this?
I haven't come across that. What we've seen on the work that we do as Property Point is more in line with main contractors preferring to work with the contractors that they've worked with, recycling contractors and not giving enough of a chance to other small businesses to participate in the project, or living no skills development whatsoever.
Okay, that's clear. And in closing, I mean, you've talked about the fact that this has to come from the property developers themselves, that they need to be able to include local businesses. Do you see a potential for the government to play a role in that? Or is this solely between the property sector and, well, the property developers and local businesses?
Well, yes, we've gotten the BEE clauses, we've gotten the transformation clauses that the government has come up with, but these need to be enforced and maybe explained better so that people understand that it's not just going in and forcing transformation to happen. So property developers need to engage on that level as well.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and for providing a little bit of clarity and insights on this issue. Thank you. That was Ntsako Ngomana, a project manager at Property Point. We'll now take a short break, and after the break, we'll be back for more. Stay tuned.